That is not green or red. Welcome to the Impact with Robin Dorsey. Today we have some amazing guests. This is the Impact with Robin Dorsey because it didn't have it. We have some amazing guests with us here today in the studio, and I am so happy that you came back for us for yet another week to hear some amazing stories from some phenomenal women. These women are just fantastic. They have went through tremendous feats in their life, and they're willing to share their story with my wonderful viewers, and I'm so excited to have them. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our extraordinary guest today. Hello and welcome. Our first fabulous guest, her name is Miss Darlene Hart, and she is a fantastic and fabulous First Lady. She is the wife of Pastor Kevin Hart and the First Lady of Christian Tabernacle Church located in Washington, D.C. She has 5 wonderful children, and she is the creator and visionary of the Behind the Makeup book, where she collaborates with a lot of other amazing and fantastic women who she brings together to share their stories so that everybody has a peace of mind to be able to share what they have in common and get their stories out so that they too can be heard. So she's doing some fantastic things where she brings together women to share their testimonies, as we just stated, of difficult life experiences they were able to overcome. These self help books have abided by men and women in learning the components needed to overcome their own life trials. Darlene is adamant about helping people turn their mess into a message. I love that, the mess into a message, because we all have things going on in our life, and we all can give a wonderful message. So that's fantastic. From the movement, she has created a beauty and cosmetic line. So she not only is a fantastic first lady, she not only collaborates with extraordinary women, she also has her own beauty line. I mean, that's just fantastic. From the movement, she's created the beauty line, and it's called the BTM Cosmetics. So you will have to check that out a little later. We'll tell you more about it as she shares her fantastic story with you all. Darlene knows the importance of finances and funding your dreams, and that can be very expensive. I can tell you that from experience. She also has several different other sources of income. She does have a 9 to 5, so she adds motherhood, a full time career. She's an author, she's an entrepreneur. I mean, she's amazing. Hello, hello. Wait till you meet her. You haven't seen anything yet. This is just the tip of the surface. I'm sorry. And she also teaches her children to build business and their wealth so that they are young entrepreneurs as well. She's developing a company to sell goods and products such as t-shirts and other things. She is also the founder of a youth and family services organization called Ensuring the Future, a nonprofit 501c3 organization. She addressed the need to support when dealing with loved ones who suffers from drug or alcohol addiction. So we may have her back on a future show because we will be talking about some of those other issues coming up a little later in a couple of months. So stay tuned for that as well. And she also provides training and workshops to teach others how to cope with those addictions. So, without further ado, we are going to hear and welcome and introduce Miss First Lady Darlene Hart. Hello and welcome.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm absolutely wonderful.
Thank you for joining us. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. So, tell us about your wonderful legacy, your story, your journey. Where did you start? So, give us a little bit more information about you.
Well, everything that I guess has a little bit been stated in the bio, but I am, again, the First Lady of Christian Tabernacle. I am a wife, a mother. I am also the daughter of Donald and Jessie Barrett. And I guess my background really is I got married at a very young age.
Okay.
And so I've been married now 25 years.
Yes, congratulations.
And absolutely.
Especially in this generation.
Yes, indeed. Pray for me.
Yes. I love it.
But it is, and during that time, my husband was suffering from drugs and alcohol addiction.
Okay.
And during that time, I was just trying to cope with that.
Okay.
And that's where the Ensuring the Future was birthed from, because we didn't have a support system.
Okay.
What we had was calls from the police. We got calls from people who were complaining about the things that he did. We had upset friends and family, but we had no real support system.
Yes, okay.
And they had AA, but they didn't have anything for the family.
Okay.
So I thought that there was a need to tie it all in, to bring it all together so that not only the person with the addiction had some support, but then also the family, because once he's clean and sober, then what do they do? Who do they, who do they turn to? And how do you bring him back into the house? And so that's kind of where it started. But then after that, we had both been in church, and, we were trained in church to really pray and fast, and we learned to lay prostrate before the Lord and cast your cares upon him. We learned all those great things, and those work. But that's not the only thing that works.
Okay.
So I started this thing called Behind the Makeup, because my husband and I went through a terrible time in our marriage. When he got clean and sober, we had the after effects. We had the trying to trust him again. We had the financial troubles. We had a lot of bills on top of bills, and we had a lot of things that we didn't know how to deal with, and nobody else could really help us, because most of the people that he was with, they were really still out there in the street. So those that were clean didn't really have his story. So we didn't have anybody that could teach us the tools that we needed. And what they told me to do was pray. They didn't tell me to go to counseling. They didn't tell me, because they have that fear. Counseling is a bad word.
Yes, for our community, we don't seek the help that we need because it's like a taboo. We can't go to counseling. We're too, prideful to go to counseling.
Absolutely. And it makes it seem like if you are saved and you're in church, especially if you have a title. So I was also a preacher. And you have this title, and they think you should have it all together. They believe that you absolutely have no problems, that you can come to church, and now he's become the pastor, and he's clean and sober, and now I have everything I wanted. But I was completely empty on the inside. And I had no way to get that out. So praying was not enough. Fasting was not enough. Laying down, getting on my knees was not enough. And they teach you to put a mask on in church and to hide behind what you're going through. And so Behind the Makeup was birthed because we had a completely out-of-hand argument. Something that just started as a conversation or a push, and things that we really don't believe is domestic violence. The things that we really don't believe start the battle. And that battle turned into me staying 24 hours in jail and birthed this book and the next books. So that's just a little piece.
So let me ask you a question. So how long did you know that he had the alcohol and drug addiction before it became the problem?
So I would say I met my husband when we were like 18 years old. And he had already had the problem, but I didn't know it. And so, they teach you that smoking weed and all of that stuff is okay. Everybody acts like it's from the earth, so it's good for you. But some people can't just stop there. They have to increase, and that little bit of marijuana or whatever they want to call it, it just kind of breeds other things. It's a starting place. And so what I thought was what everybody else said. It's just marijuana. It's nothing else. but I had no idea he was doing other things.
Okay.
And it wasn't until after I had my daughter, which I would say was probably like a year and a half,
Okay.
that I found out he was on drugs, like something hard. I didn't
Right.
understand the disappearing act because it was, I was green, as they said. So I didn't know that world. I didn't know anything about people using, I didn't even know what crack was, to be honest with you. So I was not familiar with the things that was going on outside in that world.
Okay.
And so he was able to deceive me because I wasn't familiar with it. So I didn't know. It was just an argument, and he'd just be gone, you know, away from his house because we didn't live together. So he could disappear for days, and I wouldn't know. I would just think, oh, he's out here doing whatever, cheating and messing around, you know. So he could blame it on anything. When the reality was, it was that he was using drugs, and nobody told me.
Wow.
You know, there were things that was comments that were made, but I didn't know what they were rooted in. So it was not blatant. It wasn't like, listen, girl. It was just like, you know, did you see it was $20 on the table? You know, it was just something that was kind of overshadowed. And so at the end result was that I found out after my daughter was born. And then at that point I was kind of hooked. Like, let me help him. So that's where that began.
When did it hit rock bottom for him? When did he realize that I have a problem and I need to get help?
You know, my husband tells a story about him really finding himself, sort of like the prodigal son. And it really was, for him, he had tried the nice little resorts that you go to when you have these drug addictions. And my daughter and I came and visited him, and it was a nice pond there, and it was a nice, beautiful walk and scenery, and it cost his parents a lot of money, but it didn't help. So those centers didn't help him because they were really fluff. They, you know, it wasn't anything teaching him. You know, they had the meetings. They teach him all of that. At the core of who he was God. His relationship with God was real. He just did not know how to get off of that. He didn't know how to change it. So when he really decided that it was done for him, this had like been probably 15, 16 years later, you know. And he always says 18 years he was out there in the streets. And it was only until he had gone, he actually, at the day when I believe the Lord really stepped in was when I had given up. I had, you know, when they say that you're down to nothing and you really have, I'm throwing in the towel, this is it. My prayer was that God not send him back to me if he wasn't going to be clean, if he was not going to be sober. And miraculously that night he was arrested on trumped up charges. He didn't do anything. They accused him of trying to kill somebody or hurt somebody, and he was just, you know, he was on drugs. He was out of his mind. And they kept him in there long enough for him to find himself. And when he came out, and it was about 30 days.
He was in there for
30 days before they actually, which is like a period of time that you would do in a rehab to start out. So some people go into a 30-day rehab and then they go from there. Well, what he did was he spent 30 days in there, and when he came home, we had no more issues. None.
Look
and
at God.
I couldn't
Look
even
at
believe
God.
it. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing.
Wow. So through the situations that you went through with your husband, you started to write from your experiences. Tell us a little bit about the book, the background of the book, of how did you get there and what made you, you know, started to put your feelings into the pen, so to speak.
That's good. I like that. So, again, it really started, I always wanted to write. And I always kind of jotted things down. And I just thought that it was going to be something else, you know, a love story, a novel. And I never thought my story would be interesting. Never thought that. But after we had our big issue, and I won't say what that is because I want you to read the book. But
you have to tune in and read the book
to find out why I spent 24 hours in jail.
Yes.
But it was actually in jail. I was tested and I was tried from the moment the police showed up at my door. My children were there. I never liked to let them see me, you know, in handcuffs. I'm telling them don't get in trouble. They're little kids and they're watching, and I'm so disgusted by that. I'm humiliated at the fact that I had to have the police. I got neighbors. Black folks don't like neighbors. We don't like neighbors. Yes, we don't like that. And I live in Charles County.
Yes, indeed.
So we were a little nervous about that one. And they took me over to the police station and they put me in a cell with a Caucasian woman who called me a nigger all night.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And I couldn't do anything about it.
Right.
Because what they were saying about me would have been true.
Right.
They would have continued on. So I had to sit there and take it. But what I realized was that God was really teaching me a lesson. He was really showing me myself.
Right.
He was really trying to get me to see all of the areas in my life that I had handicapped myself, the places that I had really put a wall around myself and I wouldn't let anybody in. So I had Caucasian bosses.
Right.
I've had Caucasian friends, but I wouldn't let them in. I didn't, because I had several bad experiences where I felt like it was racist incidents, so I wouldn't let them in. So he wanted me to tear that wall down. My feelings with my husband and the things that I was doing. So in this little cell, there's a toilet in the room. It really is a toilet in the room. Like, I was amazed by these things.
And everybody used the bathroom right there.
Right there. This lady got up and while she was calling me a nigger, she walked to the toilet, used the bathroom, and she was a regular there because they called her by her name. She was a regular. So they knew her name. Yeah, this was her house.
Oh my goodness.
And she went to the bathroom and she used the bathroom and got up and wiped herself with her sleeve.
Oh.
And I said, I can't even go to the bathroom in here.
Right.
Everything that it was like God was just pushing me against the wall.
Yes.
I was already locked up
right.
before I even entered that cell because of the way that I lived my life.
Yes.
I would not allow people to get close to me. I would not talk to people about my personal issues. I would just keep everything, hidden. I'd beat my face. I'd put on my clothes and I'd go to church and I'd sit there like everybody else and act like not me.
Right.
I don't have any problems. I'm good.
Right.
And I'd smile. And that thing broke me in that cell because nobody cared about my smile. I had a beautiful wig on, people. They made me take that thing off. Don't go to jail with a wig on. They made me take it off.
What?
And when I took
Take your wig off.
I had this little knot of a do back here. Under that wig you hide stuff. And I had this little knot of a do, and I was just like, oh my God, this is so humiliating. And so, but every area of my life was pushed that day. No makeup, no wig. This Caucasian lady is, talking crazy, and everything that she could say to me that I wouldn't have taken in the street, she could say it there, and I had to take it.
So you were stripped
So
of all of
I
your
was
glory.
stripped of everything. I had nowhere to hide. And that was the day that I realized I had handcuffed myself already. The police just came and did the physical thing.
Absolutely.
They put me in a cell, but I had already been in bondage long before that. And so God then released me. He then allowed me to find myself in a prison cell.
Wow.
And that's how I came up with the book. When I got out, I looked at all the areas of my life that had been bound.
Right.
And the clothes, I stopped wearing hair weaves, and I still put them on now. So if you see me, don't
judge her.
I will
no
put
judge
a nice good wig on and a nice weave and beat my face.
That's right.
But that time, during that period, I really had to take all of that off.
Wow.
The whole facade had to go, and I really had to come to who Darlene was authentically. Everything about me had to be stripped. So I stopped the makeup, I stopped the nails, I stopped the hair, and I just wore my nice little natural bush. And I just did everything that I could to find out who I was, get in touch with me again. Not Kevin's wife, not my children's mom, not my parents' daughter. Who is Darlene?
Right.
And I started to just look at all these. God is really good in giving me images to see.
Yeah.
So I'm on the internet and I'm just looking for what is this he's trying to show me. And I see all of these women with beautiful looks and beautiful hair and name bags, and they had every red bottom shoes, and you spending all this money to look apart, and you're broken on the inside, and you have nothing else but those pieces of materials to make you feel good. And so I started taking those pieces of material and I started putting them in a PowerPoint slide. And before I knew it, this name just came behind the makeup.
Behind the makeup.
And that was how it just all started to come together. And as I shared that story with other people, I had to tell them, well, because I was a first lady and everybody wondered what happened. They heard I had gotten arrested. Then it hit all over. People were saying they Googling you. And I was saying, well, good. You know, that's good. You know,
wonderful internet.
I like to say that was my fan club. You don't go look for information on people unless you they fan. Thank you. Book sales went up. Thank you. So they did. They Googled me, and it was, you know, I had to go through that period where it was going through a shameful time in public. And people had to watch me in pain. Not like they hadn't seen me in pain before because of the situation with my husband, but they had to watch me in pain at the hands of myself. I did that to me. And so once I got past all of that, it was okay. I found me again, and I was good.
That's right.
Absolutely.
The first day that you became naked and transparent, what did that feel like?
Oh my gosh. I had to I got out on a Saturday morning. I got my mom came and got me. And I really had to look at my children and apologize. And then I had to walk into my home to see all of this stuff. So I'll say it was blood everywhere. So I had to look at this, and it just was at that moment. I think I was faced with 25 years in jail.
Oh, wow.
That was the case that they gave me.
Wow.
They said it was attempted murder. 25 years was the least I would do, and I thought I was gonna die. Like it was free.
Never be able to see your children again. Never have that freedom that you once had.
All of that.
Yes.
And it was all kind of crashing in because I no longer wanted to hide anymore. Everybody called on the phone, and they're, you know, my pastor called, and his wife called, and everybody was trying to find out what happened, what caused me to snap. And you just really get to a place where you're just looking in the mirror and you don't even recognize yourself. So at that moment when I got home, I really took a good look at the mess I created. And I couldn't blame anybody but me. At that time, that's when I really started to say, this has to change. I knew for some reason that God was going to get me out of it, but I knew something had to change. 25 years is a very long time.
Yes. Absolutely.
To be in jail.
Yes.
I don't know how nobody does it.
Right.
But listen, it ain't for me. 24 hours was good enough.
I know that's right.
Thank you, Lord.
Your life.
We don't need to do that no more.
So being the first lady at your congregation and your husband is the pastor, so I know, you know, we in churches, you know, there's a lot of gossip and things like that that sometimes go on. Not in all churches, of course.
Just in my church.
Yeah, not in all churches. But how did the congregation treat you all when these things were occurring, and did you all lose members and things of that nature?
We did lose a couple of people, but not many. We really didn't lose many. At this time, my husband had only been pastoring, I would say, maybe 2 years. I think it was. I don't even think it was 2 years, to be honest with you. I can't remember. Thank you, Lord, that I don't remember.
Yes.
But I don't think it was 2 years, and it was still new. We were still building, and it was already a lot of tension in the ministry because we had just taken over from his father who had passed, and you know, his father had pretty much been a father to a lot of other people, and so it was a lot of grieving still going on. So that the people that we did lose in the interim, some of them have returned, and those of them that left, we just knew that was God too. So we were okay with that. But I think that for the most part, there were a few people that probably disconnected and wanted me to feel that pain. And they would walk past me and make negative comments.
Really? In the church?
In the church.
In the church. Okay.
Thank you, though. I appreciate it.
Yes, because what doesn't kill you makes you
Oh
stronger.
my gosh, it's right there.
Yes, it's in the
Two more came as a result.
Yeah.
So it was good. It was all right. It was a learning lesson for me because now I know that when somebody's going through something, you really have to love on them.
Yes.
Especially when it's something that they have to go through out in the open. When they really have to deal with it in front of people, you have to love on them even harder because you really don't know what that person is experiencing.
Yes.
And so the people that did love on me, I appreciate it. The people that I did let in, because I was still very guarded because people wanted to know, why did you do this? And so that meant they wanted me to expose my husband. They wanted me to say he was this kind of person. They wanted me to tear my family up. And at that moment, I felt like a mama bear. You know, we protect at that moment, you know. And, you know, my mom used to say about me that when I was younger, I would fight with my siblings, but as soon as somebody else came for my siblings,
that's what we
I
do.
would let you
I can do
have
it, but you not going to do
You're
that.
not going to mess with mine.
That's right.
I know how much to beat them up. You don't. You might hurt them. I ain't going to hurt them.
Right.
And so I got very protective, and I did not want anybody to say anything bad about him either. I didn't want them to say anything bad about me, but I had done the worst. So I couldn't help that. But at that moment, I wasn't going to sit there and badmouth him and add more to the problem. Because now, you know, God is saying you better watch your mouth, watch your ears. So it's like protect your gates.
Yes.
Mouth gate, ear gates, eye gates. You got to protect everything.
Absolutely.
And so you can't let anything get in as much as you can't put anything out.
Absolutely.
And so I just went into protective mode. And those that really were loving on me and they called or they text and, you know, they gave me my space because I was still very hurt. And it just ended up working out well. It worked to our advantage. I mean, my husband and I, we've had a very up and down roller coaster because of his drug addiction. So I always say we're survivors. You know, we've lasted 25 years when some people throw in the towel after about month, 2 months, a year.
My generation, 5 years or less. So we don't even get to no 10 and 15 and 20 years. 5 years or less.
Absolutely.
It's not death do you part no more. It's, you know,
no.
till I get tired, you know, unfortunately.
Yeah, so we've made it.
How did you, as First Lady and a pastor of your church, how did you all heal your congregation? Because they also went through that with you all, that pain and that journey with you all. So how did you all help to heal the congregation?
So we actually, because we were, like I said, going through the grieving stages with his father passing, and it was still a lot of things going on. We had a lot of healing to do anyway. Okay. So it really was a time for everybody to kind of reflect on their own walk. And it wasn't so much as us doing the healing as God had to do it. He really had to step in and be Lord. And we had to give him permission to be Lord. Because he can, you know, for example, when I didn't expose myself, the Bible says that he'll pull your skirt above your head and show your very nakedness. So he gave me that nakedness experience. So everybody had to feel that. Everybody has to go through it. So all we could do was really tell our story. And because, you know, we're under the covering of Pastor Jenkins and First Lady Trina Jenkins. And so they kind of advised us that along the way. They counseled us. They loved on us. They really allowed us to come to them. And I mean, we could say whatever was on our heart, and they would not judge us. They would not question it. They said absolutely nothing about it. If we see them today, they just ask, how's everything going? And I say, he's still alive.
That's amen.
And that's it. So we didn't really have to do as much working on the congregation as we just preach the word and we let God be God.
Let God be God.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. That's amazing. So if a woman came to you and they said, you know, I have some similar issues or situations that's going on, what 3 things would you tell her to, you know, help her to get from behind the makeup?
Well, because I did go to counseling, I would always say it's good to have somebody that you can go to. And I'm not talking about the little old lady in the church pew that has been through it all. I'm talking about a licensed counselor. I really did have to. And I didn't go to one or two, and I didn't go to one that looked like me. I went to somebody who was not like me.
Okay.
I went to a man. I actually went to a Caucasian woman and a Caucasian man.
Okay.
And I did the woman first, and she was not fitted for me. I wanted a woman because I felt like a woman would understand.
Identify. Yes.
But she couldn't.
Okay.
And all she could do was try to classify me, and that wasn't good.
Okay.
And so then after that, I would tell her, not just counseling, I would advise her then to really get to the core of what the problem is, and then do joint counseling.
Okay.
And then always study, fast, and pray.
I love it. Study, fast, and pray, and get some counseling. Well, in a moment, we're going to take a quick break, a commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more with Darlene and with our next guest. So stay tuned to find out who that is.
We have a big problem, and we need your help.
It's happening on college campuses, at bars, at parties, even in high schools.
It's happening to our sisters and our daughters,
our wives and our friends.
It's called sexual assault, and it has to stop.
We have to stop it. So listen up.
If she doesn't consent, or if she can't consent, it's rape, it's assault.
It's a crime. It's wrong.
If I saw it happening, I was taught you have to do something about it.
If I saw it happening, I speak up.
If I saw it happening, I'd never blame her. I'd help her.
Because I don't want to be a part of the problem.
I want to be a part of the solution.
We need all of you to be part of the solution. This is about respect. It's about responsibility.
It's up to all of us to put an end to sexual assault. And that starts with you.
Because one is too many.
Impact with Robin Dorsey. Thank you again for tuning in to this wonderful show where we are talking about behind the makeup and these women showing their amazing stories that help heal some people that's going through some similar situations. So it's always good to, be able to identify, because we are going through something. And because sometimes we don't share, we're not able to help to heal some other people. But we have another fantastic and fabulous guest here with us today. So let me tell you about her. So her name is Vanessa Fleet, and she is a woman of purpose, inspirational speaker, and entrepreneur. Woman after my own class. I love it. As the founder of VAF Inspires, Vanessa motivates women of all ages and cultures to push through the obstacles of life and pursue their God-given purpose. Yes, I love that. She published a motivational memoir, Pushing Through the Pain to Pursue Your Purpose, in 2013, where she shares how she turned her pain into purpose. Your pain into purpose. We're going to talk about that. She also created a VAF apparel. So she has some bling t-shirts. I mean, this lady does it all. Bling, phone cases, so you can get a little bit of everything. So these women are fantastic. So they don't just do one thing. You have to have more than one thing into your repertoire. And she shares how she turned, again, her pain into her passion. Her purpose manifested from the pain she experienced in early childhood. Born to a teenage mother and an absentee father, she struggled with where she belonged in life. And sometimes we all do. And so it's good to be able to identify that. So to realize where the source came from and to be able to identify that and then to be healed from that is phenomenal. As a result of her being freed by God from her childhood and her young adult lifestyle, she now hears and makes different appearances to motivate and talk to other young women, other congregations, and she helps to do, she talks about how to overcome your low self-esteem, abandonment issues, and shame, just having the shame of having those experiences in life of her past mistakes. And so she's helping to heal not only herself by sharing her story, she's helping to heal people who's going through the same things that she's going through. She has spoken at some of America's top organizations and churches, schools, and nonprofit organizations. She even was an employee of Radio 1. This lady is phenomenal. I'm telling you, these two women right here, oh my goodness, the best. So without further ado, let me introduce Miss Vanessa. Thank you, hello, and welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So how are you today?
I'm great. I'm here, so I'm thankful.
Yes, I love it. I love it. So please tell us about your journey through your life.
Well, my journey started before I was born.
Okay.
How many people can say that?
Yes, okay.
I have a chapter that says "Born into Rejection" because I was born to a young teenage mother.
Okay.
And my father was also a teenage father.
Okay.
But my mother took on the challenge to raise me, and he did not. So
Okay.
he decided not to be there.
Okay.
His family was in agreement. They thought that he wasn't ready to raise a child because he was in college at the time.
Okay.
So she took on the task. She was probably maybe 16
Okay.
when she had me, and she just decided to raise me on her own. And because she didn't have the tools she needed to raise a child, it was kind of challenging. So our relationship just continued to be challenging as I got older. And she decided to marry when I was 3.
Okay.
So it was my stepfather, and then I had 3 other sisters. So they all had the same father. And not to say that I felt separate, but sometimes you kind of feel they have all the same, the last names, and you kind of feel different. And we had a big age difference, like 8 years, 16, 17
Oh, wow,
years.
yes.
And so I was just, raised in, I just felt abandoned by my father. And not necessarily rejected by my mom, but she just had a hard time relating to me and just getting our relationship where it should be. And then other children came along. So as I grew older, I searched for love and attention in all the wrong places.
Absolutely.
So I would look for my father in the arms of then boys and then later on men.
Yeah.
And so I made so many mistakes, and I had to kind of look back and be like, well, you did the best you could with what you had.
Right.
And so, as time went on, I had to forgive my parents because they could not give me what they didn't have.
Yeah.
But it really sent me through a lot in and out of relationships. And some of those relationships, not to say that they did something wrong to me. I just didn't know how to love, and I didn't know how to be loved. And by me going through heartache at an early age, it just really set me up for future dysfunctional relationships.
Right.
So not only did I have it at home, I had it in relationships, and I was pretty good in school, but then I said, well, who's going to teach me how to relate to men? Who's going to teach me men one-on-one? And so I kind of learned by trial and error.
Okay.
So, a few years went by, heartbroken, just went through so many different situations. And I made some decisions that was very difficult for me to get over. And I did have to go to counseling, and I had to forgive myself. And once God forgave me, I had to kind of let it go.
Okay.
But those situations were, it was my lowest. I was at my lowest, and I'm not going to go over it because you have to read the book.
You have to read the book there too. Yes.
So, but that was the lowest in my life. And I just started to, because I was a Christian at 12, so I gave my life to God at 12. But then I kind of strayed away a little bit, made the mistakes, and I had to really get my life back on track. So as I met this gentleman after my kitchen caught on fire.
Okay.
I met the gentleman probably the next day. So I had on some baggy jeans and some, sweatshirt. I was just looking a mess.
And sometimes that's where you meet people.
Right. So I was like, okay, he must really like me because, I'm just looking a mess. And so I met him, and that would later be my husband.
Okay.
But we got married too soon. And so we went through counseling, but we didn't go through the serious in-depth counseling that you need before you get into a marriage.
Yes.
And so he was a pretty decent guy. He had saw his parents be married 30-some years.
Okay.
I wasn't raised seeing a good marriage.
Right.
So I knew that I needed help.
Right.
But in essence, we both needed help.
Right.
So he married me as an adult, but I was still that little girl, that broken little girl that still thought that getting married would solve all my problems.
Right.
So I remember before I married him, I said, you know what, I have everything else going in life. I have a degree, I have a house, I have this, I have that. All I need is a husband. Well, no, that's not true because I was still incomplete.
Right.
So as the years went on, we just went through so much, and you can't really put your finger on it. It's just that we didn't have the counseling, we wasn't prepared,
Right.
and you have to work as hard on your marriage as you do that job.
Right.
So even though he was a very hard worker, you have to work hard at your marriage. So then I found myself divorced as a Christian, which is very difficult.
Right.
And so I mentioned in the book that God hates the sin, but he still loves you.
Right.
So I just had to believe that, God will give me another chance because he's given many other sinners chances. So what makes me think that a divorcee would not have another chance? So I just went through so much in my life, and I said, you know what, how can I help somebody else?
Right.
How can I help that young girl who found herself in my situation, who's made decisions that she regrets and she feels shameful? How can I reach women who can't get to their purpose because they're still stuck in regret, they're stuck in shame? And so a few years ago, I asked God for my purpose, and that's when the book came along.
Yes, I love it. God does answer our prayers, and he hears us. We sometimes feel like he doesn't hear us, or he's not listening, or, maybe we're not speaking loud enough, or we did something in our life that, that he's not going to be able to hear us, or we can't receive from him, but he does. He does. So let's go back from your childhood. So when did you have the conversation with your mom as a kid and then as an adult to say, Mom, I want us to be different, or I want us to be better, or I'm missing something? When did you have that conversation with your mom, first as a child and then as an adult?
Well, of course, as a child, you don't challenge your parents.
Well, true.
So it was very hard. We both have strong personalities.
Okay.
Even as a younger child. So it was very hard to talk to her and explain too much of anything to her. So I kind of went through a lot and I held it in. Or I acted out by searching relationships.
Right.
And so that means I just kind of just bounced around. As I got older, as an adult, I tried to reach out to her. And it just did not go well. It did not go well.
As an adult, it didn't go well.
It didn't.
Okay.
And so I sought counseling for myself, and I asked her. I said, "Well, Mom, can we go to counseling?"
Okay.
And she, what can a counselor tell me?
No.
Tell my business. So she did go the first day.
Okay.
Went the first day, and she was late getting there. Because she was getting ready for some program or something she had to go to. So I was there, and I was there on time.
Right.
And so by me being there on time, she felt that I had given some of my story and she
beforehand. Yes.
So she went that one counseling session, and I thank God for that. And she said, "Well, I don't want you to waste your money." And I was like, "Mom, this is worth it to me.
Absolutely.
Shopping and getting material things. Yes. I know she loved to shop. That's not worth anything, but this is worth it for me." And she didn't go back, and I continued because I needed to heal myself. And they said, you can't force anybody to heal or get help. You have to get it for yourself. So
how is your relationship with her now, your mom?
Well, as of last year, she did reach out.
Okay.
And I'm sure that was a lot for her.
Yes.
That was a lot for her. So she reached out through Facebook.
Okay.
So Facebook is good for something.
Okay.
She was on Facebook. And I was kind of hesitant because I was like, because sometimes you have to love people from a distance.
Yes.
Because you'll sink deeper and deeper, and you'll never heal, and you'll be depressed, and I can't pursue my purpose. And so I talked to my sister, and I was like, I don't know. I was kind of hesitant. And she was like, well, that's your mom. And, so I was like, okay, I'm accept the friend request. And then I didn't want things that I say or things that I did make her feel bad, because I had to talk about my story. I had to talk about my purpose. It just so happened that she was a part of that journey.
Absolutely.
But I talked more about my life, and it was for me to help other people, not to bash them, because I had forgiven them. So I responded, and then we finally saw each other. And so now I can't say we talk every day, every week, but it's more cordial, and we're in a better place. So it's God. Yeah.
Look at God. That's awesome. What about your dad? Have you reached back, or has he reached out to you as you've been an adult to have a relationship with you now?
We were we've been on and off for years. He would say that my mom had something to do with the way things turned out. Of course, he went through a terrible time because he lost his mom 9 months before I was born. I was born in January. She passed in April. So my middle name, I'm named after her, Grandma Ada. And so he went through a lot. He went through emotional situations and drugs and just a lot of emotional situations. So as I got older, you know, we kind of tried a relationship, and then a situation happened as far as me co-signing for the house, and then my mother was like, "That's not right." So it just became a whole lot of drama, and I could just see that maybe he tried and gave his best, but I could see it was still a lot about him and less about me. So the house situation did not help. He got married, and his wife didn't really take to his only child. She was more focused on her 3 children, who was older than me. And so I kind of felt bad because I'm like, you only have one child, and you're helping raising someone else's children. And he felt as though he wasn't, but even if you aren't directly, you are indirectly. So I saw a lot of favoritism, a lot of love go out to her children and his nephew. Like he would drive up to Baltimore to pick him up, and it just became difficult, and we would get into it. The few times I would ask him, can he be there for me? Because not many times I would ask. And so my upbringing really made me a survivor. It made me strong. It made me independent, resilient. You know, it made me to the woman I am today. But we just, I don't know, it's been a few years now since I've talked to him. He lives around the corner.
Wow, he lives around the corner.
Yeah, they both do.
Wow. So I know that's tough too, because they're close, but yet still so far emotionally and mentally, you know. So I know that's difficult to have to deal with, because you know, we sometimes, as you know, you said, behind the makeup, you know, things we put on our makeup and our facade and out the forefront of us, but inside we still hurt. You know what I'm saying? The pain is still there, it's still real, and I'm sure, you know, driving past, you know, because they're around the corner, that's still a hurtful place.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I don't even go in that direction.
Wow.
Because I need to stay whole. I need to stay healed. I don't need anything, you know, and even if if something come up, you know, God's just taking me to a place where it's like, just forgive them, do the best that you can, and just move on, and just help other people who may be going through the same situation.
You said your siblings, growing up, you had 3 siblings, and they were treated differently than you were. Did you resent your siblings at that time, and did you have a relationship with them?
I didn't resent them because I knew it wasn't their fault.
Okay.
But because of the dysfunction in the family, it caused distance between us.
Right.
So they may have had their own individual issues within the family.
Right.
It's just that the sister under me is 8 years behind me, and the other one's 16 and 17. So I wasn't, you know, I don't know everything. I would have to talk to them to really get their side. I've heard a little bit of their side. But they were by, you know, her then husband versus me being by a man that was not there, and situation. And I had one sister that that is kind of a miracle baby. So of course I never blamed her because she was just born into just a lot of health challenges, and she's a very strong young lady. So I never blamed them. But as we got older, I said, okay, we're adults now. It's time that we really get this together.
So through your journey, you said that you recognized and realized that you needed to get counseling. So about what age would you say that you sought counseling to try to get to some healing?
So I went through counseling after the divorce. I don't know, maybe.
So your first time for counseling was after you were married?
I'm trying to think, because I've gone through counseling a few times.
Okay.
I might have been in my 30s.
Okay.
I think, I was much older.
Yeah, okay.
But had I went earlier, maybe my life could have taken a different direction.
Right. But the fact that you recognize, because we sometimes recognize that we need help, but we don't seek it, you know, because we don't want to be blamed, we don't want to be judged, or for whatever the reason may be, we don't seek it. So the fact that you recognize it and you also saw it and you sought help is the first step. because that's the first step to healing, because you can't heal until you get the help that you need, you know. So healing is a powerful thing, but if we don't, you know, seek out that help that we need, we can't get to that next level in our lives. Now as an adult, you know, you have been through these different challenges and you're in a different place. What would you say to somebody who, you know, grew up in a similar situation as yours? How would you recommend that they, what steps would you recommend they take to start to heal?
I would say that regardless of what situation you were born in, you were not an accident. God made you.
Love it.
He made you beautiful. He made you whole. Don't blame yourself for anything that your parents has gone through. And I would say, just, you know, always believe in yourself and get help before going in and out of those relationships. You know, realize where your pain came from, why you do the things that you do, and then you have to start, you know, forgiving those who hurt you, and forgiving yourself. Because it was hard for me to forgive myself because of certain decisions that I made. And of course they have to go to counseling.
Absolutely.
And because I turn my pain to purpose, I always talk to people about turning it around. You know, turn that mess into a message, turn that struggle into a story. And that's what I have done. So you have to really and don't feel ashamed. We all have made mistakes. And if you get out and you talk to more and more people, you hear different stories, and you may look at people and you don't realize what they've gone through. But if they're willing to share that story and willing to be transparent, you'll say, you too? I went through the same thing. You made it out, so can I. So I would just encourage them and just give them just a ray of hope that know that things won't always be the way they are. And so just you know, just stay positive and just keep moving.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. And I'm glad that, you know, you found your healing, and so did you, because this is what, you know, we need, and God doesn't intend for us to stay in that place. You know, we have to seek out that help so that we can move past and do his work ultimately. So Darlene, tell us, so you have some upcoming things going on through your journey. It led you to not just one, but 3 versions of the Behind the Makeup. So tell us a little bit about that and your collaboration with several different women.
So the collaboration is, when I started to share my story, I thought it would be much more interesting to bring in people who also had a story to tell and could show, because we often think that you don't have any problems in church. And so each one of these ladies in the books had a title. They were either a minister, an elder. They had some sort of way that people looked at them in this leadership role, and they had to, they were looked up to either, and they were also looked up in their families. And so nobody would think that they had issues too, or that they had gone through an experience. And people always think that they have to stop going to church. They have to throw in the towel, as they say. And so I thought if we shared this story together, it would bring hope to a lot of other people. And so each lady comes with their own testimony. And so we're going to do another book again.
I love it.
And each time it's
Women
different women.
empowerment.
Absolutely. It's different women each time. Everybody has to come from something. And each testimony is always showing how they bounced back, that they didn't just give into it, and they didn't. Some come from, you know, promiscuous backgrounds. Some come from alcohol. Some have done it, you know, some have all 3. So it's just about, you know, being able to empower other people through what you've gone through, and that mistake, using it and letting it be your platform.
And actually, so you both ladies work with a lot of different women in collaborations. Queen Latifah actually did a show called From the Bottom Up. And that actually talks about some women and their struggles. And these are some prominent women in R&B, you know, different community political climates. And their stories from, you know, what led to their downfall to, you know, where they are now. So you have to tune into that, and it was aired on TV1, I believe, but it was From the Bottom Up, and they had some amazing stories and collaboration. So, I mean, everybody goes through something, you know, and if somebody's having a rough day or is having some challenges, don't just, try to take it personal, because it's not personal. Most of the time, you just have no idea what people are going through. You can't take it personal. If anything, ask them, do they need help, or is there anything that you can do instead of, judging a person. You don't need to judge the person, because that might add on to their stress or the depression.
Absolutely.
Help each other, love one another, because that's what God wants us to do. So Vanessa, tell us, you also have another genre coming out. So what is your next phase?
So this book, well, let me say this book was birthed because I had a testimony in another young lady's book. So it was that collaboration, and that's when I knew my story had power.
Yes.
And so that's when I decided to write that one. So my next book, will be out in April.
Okay.
And it is, oh my gosh, I can't wait.
What is the name of it, if you want to share? Or is it a secret?
It's a secret. It's a secret.
Okay.
They have to follow me.
Have to follow her. Yes. And speaking of following you ladies, can you all share, where can they reach you all to find out more about you and to hear some more of your phenomenal stories, or to have you on their shows?
I'm on all social media platforms.
Yes.
I'm trying that Snapchat thing, so, cross your fingers. I don't know. I just use that one to follow my babies.
Okay. I love it.
But I'm on Lady Darlene Hart across all the social media platforms. And you can reach out to me there. I also have my websites. You can find that on Facebook. All of the information is out there. Just look up Darlene Hart.
Yes. And Vanessa, what about you?
And I'm on social media at Vanessa Fleeton, my name. And my website is vanessafleeton.com.
Yes. Awesome. Well, I am so excited that you wonderful and beautiful ladies were here today on The Impact with Robin Dorsey, because you all are impacting people. You're phenomenal, and you have a message to share, and you're willing to share and be transparent and open with the world, and to help not only heal you yourselves, but to heal other people too. So that is phenomenal, and that takes courage, and that takes strength, and we only doing it in the way God intended us for us to do it anyway. So we are blessed for being able to share our platforms with everyone that is watching. So unfortunately, this is about all the time that we have for today, but we may have these wonderful and beautiful ladies back here with us at a later time, because we have some other topics coming up that need the healing as well. But we also have to thank our wonderful and fabulous sponsors. We have Resurgence Beauty Lounge, who does my hair and makeup. We have Crafted Website Designs, and they do a wonderful and beautiful job. And we have D. Christopher Communications, who did my show intro and my music for my show. And this is The Impact with Robin Dorsey. I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for tuning in with me every Friday. I love you all, and I hope you love me too. But thank you, guys. I really appreciate you all, and I'm so grateful that you all were here with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. And we'll see you right here next week with The Impact with Robin Dorsey. Have a great night.